Welcome to the Manly Mythical Story Emporium. I'm your host, Thurston J.Y. Manley. And on today's episode, we have a theme that we got from the Triad Storytelling Guild. Once again, because I haven't got any requests for a theme, the theme is gifted. Gifted meaning having exceptional talent or ability. Having exceptional talent or ability. Also defined as having exceptional talent or natural ability. So on today's episode, our stories will go in line with that theme. And I'm going to have to get personal. I had to dig deep down for my gifted abilities. Because I wasn't one of those kids that were in the gifted class. I barely got into college prep classes. Well, not barely got in. I got in. I had decent grades. But I got by being quiet. That is one of my many gifts. Just being quiet, not causing a disturbance, and just smiling and being nice. That's an amazing skill. You'd be surprised how many people are just like energy vampires. But if you're not an energy vampire, you can just succeed on just smiling and nodding a lot. But unlike the kids in the gifted class, I will not cheat you today. You will get 2 stories. First story on the gifted theme. I call this drunk riding. Drunk riding. This story will be wrapped around my many skills that I use as a Uber driver, which I did for a couple years. And it's one of my many skills of debonair in my toolbox or my wheelhouse, if you will. The other story, nameless faces. Nameless faces. And I'm going to get into some of the skills I have with not knowing people's names, but recognizing some faces. So 2 stories today, drunk riding and nameless faces. And like I promised, I would like to give a shout out to some of the followers that have commented to me in my IG. One, Mr. Jones Wild Ass 1. Jones Wild Ass 1. That's JONESWILD, crooked letter, also known as SS, and the number 1. John Wild Ass 1. He sent me a message, said he liked the podcast. Also offered me products, which apparently he sells on his Instagram. I don't know, but if that's something you're into, you can reach out to him. Those products involve a little bit of CBDs and THCs and flowers, or also known as the marijuana, the wicked weed. He offered some to me. I do not partake, so I appreciate the offer, but no, I'm good. If anybody else wanted to venture out and support this brother, Jones Wild Ass 1. Maybe not the most professional name, but reach out to him. JONESWILDASS1. Okay. Reach out to him on your own risk. I haven't reached out to him, so good luck, because it is Instagram. He did send me a message. Maybe give him a follow, check him out, do some better business research on him. That's on y'all. So buy at your own risk, but try to support the brother. He did send me a message, send some dimes this way. So Jones Wild Ass 1, thank you for the support. And I did get a suggestion for one story. One of my friends wanted to know how I met another friend. So this is from Martin in Ecuador. Orale, Martin. And he wanted to know how I met my boy Doug. So I will probably tell that story in the next episode, it's a pretty good story of how I met Doug. We all went to college together at Guilford College, fighting Quakers, punching pacifists, the pugilists of peace. But today's episode is dealing with gifted, having exceptional talent or ability. First story, drunk riding. Second story, nameless faces. Nameless faces and drunk riding. You'll hear these stories right after this ad for Anchor. What a wonderful app it is. Thank you guys. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Drunk riding. Not drunk driving, but drunk riding. See, on the weekend, sometimes I drive Uber. And I noticed that when I drive Uber, I can make as much money as a full-time Uber driver that drives it during the week if I just drive late Friday, late Saturday, and maybe during the day Saturday. But I would make a good amount of money when school's in session on Thursday night. And the reason is I would drive in Winston-Salem. And in Winston-Salem, they have this little university called Wake Forest University. You may have heard of it mentioned in the news, maybe not recently, but they were involved in that college scandal where somebody paid some money. It wasn't a Full House lady, but it was some other person paid for somebody to get on the volleyball team, I think, or something like that. Do your own Googles on that. But Thursday night at Wake Forest was good money because these kids would pay money for you to give them an Uber ride from dorm to dorm. And I know some of you guys may be at different countries or different campuses where maybe it's like, oh, well, the other dorm could be clean across town. No, I'm talking about you could almost see the other dorm from the dorm you were in, and you would take these rides. And because there was so many people requesting rides, you'll get this Uber surge price. And on Thursday nights, it was exceptional because I have a Camry and I also drive a minivan. And I would drive those minivans on that night. And what would happen is you would pick up one person, drive them to another group, and they would be ordering a Uber XL, which is a larger or van there. So they would take an Uber from one person's dorm to the next person's dorm just to take another Uber to go to the event on Thursday night. This event, they called it LR, as in last resort. That was the bar that's only open on Thursdays. That's how much money you can make there. It was just one night. This bar is only open on Thursday nights, and it starts around 10. They open earlier, but that's when the money comes in. About 10 o'clock, you would get these LR rides. And the gift I had was dealing with drunk people. Most other Ubers wouldn't want to take these drunk people. They maybe would sit at the airport and wait for a big ride. But since I did this part-time, I needed to get my money now. So if I turned that light on go for Uber, like if I went online on that app, I needed to start getting rides right then. So I was on a limited amount of time compared to somebody that does it full time where they can sit around maybe all day or longer during the day and wait for a ride. And in our area, known as the Triad, Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem, maybe you include Burleson, then it wouldn't be a triad/triangle. It would be more of a square. But anyway, I would go to Wake Forest and I would wait for these rides. And you had to know that you're dealing with people that may be underage drinking or people that are new to drinking. And especially when school started back, when they've been at home and not built up that good old liver and kidneys. So now they're guzzling the booze down like nobody's business. And so one Thursday, and I knew it was going to be bad because you would have to go into the campus and get checked in. And I went to the gate, got checked in, and this is the first time I ever seen somebody on the main drag of a university at night so drunk he was folded up on the sidewalk like a cheap suit, just laid out in the bush. Now I give it up to the Wake Forest security and ambulance services over there because by the time I came back they were assessing the situation. Hope you're not locked up, bro. Good luck. Future lawyer probably at Wake. Big law school, Baptist college. That may explain a little bit. Shout out to my boozing Baptist. But anyway, so I would go over there and I would get these kids and take them. And I've developed this skill, this natural ability that I developed into a system calling drunk riding assessment or just de-escalation. Parts of this system. First thing you must do, you got to acknowledge the person. The beauty of Uber is you get their name. Now, in many books, it says the best sound that people can hear is their own name on the book on how to get people to like you. So I use that skill. I stole that from that book, and I use acknowledge them. First, when you have a drunk person get in your car, you acknowledge them. You say, "Hey, Sam." That's what you say. Just say, "Hey," and say their name like excited, like it's the first time you ever heard it. Even if it's wrong, because they're drunk, they might not go with it. They might correct you, but they usually don't get pissed if you pronounce the name wrong because, you know, sometimes you get maybe names that have a lot of consonants in it, an international name, and you don't know how to say it, and you just got to go, Caleb, but you got to say it confidently. Caleb! How you doing, buddy? And then after you acknowledge them, next step, confirm. Because some situations you got to confirm what just happened. Maybe they tripped or something like that. And you just confirm, it's like, hey man, I saw that trip. It's going to be all right. Go with it. And then finally, you just compliment them. You say, I like how smooth you pulled that off. And then end it with a high five. That resolves any situation. Example, I pull up to Last Resort. And there's a line. When Last Resort, this bar ends and lets out, there's a line of Ubers. So I'm in the line. And I'm sitting in my car. I drove my Camry that night for some reason. And I was behind another Uber. And this guy comes stumbling out. And I have the name. And we'll say the name is Steve. And I look at my Uber app knowing I'm supposed to pick up Steve. I roll down the window and I yell, Steve! Steve! And I'm waving my hand. And nobody's coming towards the car. And then this guy, stumbling and bumbling, comes up to the car in front of me. And I'm like, ooh, glad I don't have that one. He obviously knows that car. But he opens the door to the back of the car and people are getting out. And they get out. It's two lovely ladies get out of the car. And they look at this guy. And they're like, why is this person opening the door? Do we have valet or something like that? And he opens the door. And the two ladies look at him. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. You see him being apologetic. And then the guy gets out and he just eyeballs him. He is drunk and mad that this man dared get out of the car and look at him. Now, normally, anywhere on earth, this situation is, what is this idiot doing holding the door? Why is he mad that somebody's getting out their own Uber? You are in his way. But he just looked at him and said, hey, man, what's your problem? And he's getting aggressive with him. And I'm just thinking, oh, thank God I don't have to ride with that dude. And then I yelled out the window one more time, Steve, and his eyes perked up and he came towards me. I was like, oh, no. I was like, Steve. He's like, yeah, I'm Steve. I was like, Steve. This is where it comes in. You must acknowledge. I was like, Steve. Man, I saw you. And I had already acknowledged him with the Steve. And then I said to him, I saw how that dude was staring at you. And I saw how you fussed at him. I like your style, man. High five. Instant de-escalation. This dude was like pissy, ready to fight, ready to throw them bows out here in this parking lot. But I hit him with the acknowledge, compliment, and confirm. You gotta acknowledge him. You gotta confirm that his actions were okay, and you gotta compliment him. It's the ACC technique with a high five or elbow bump. Now, because it's Corona, you definitely gotta do the elbow bump. If anything, give him the head nod. But it's the ACC technique. Please take it with you. That is my skill that I pass on to you. My natural gifted ability has identified that if you see a drunk person, you know his name, you acknowledge the name, you say, Steve, and then you confirm with him that you agree with whatever just happened. Whether he threw up on himself, like, man, you threw up, that's impressive. Because usually when they're drunk, you're going to be complimenting on something that normally would get somebody arrested in some other country. And then you compliment. Good job. You confirm that you saw it, you compliment them, give them that high five, and you end like Flynn. Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, take that with you. Enjoy the ACC technique. Thank you, guys. Nameless faces. Now, going in the line with gifted, nameless faces is this ability that I have to remember a name, not at all. Totally not remember a name at all. But a face, I don't forget a face at all. If I see your face, even if I talk to you a couple times, if I see that face, I won't forget that face years from now, possibly forever. Haven't lived it forever yet, but never forget a face, even in a slight passing. If I even talk to you, see a face, or if I in a situation and see it in passing and I notice something about you, I won't forget that face, man. But a name, I could be friends with you for a very long time. Obviously not close friends, but you could be a friend of my wife friend of a friend, won't remember your name. But your face, I won't forget. Now, normally this is not really a gift. Like the gift would be, oh, I remember your name. But I can remember stuff about people, especially if we talk and I tell you a story and you tell me a story. A lot of times I try to get people to tell me a story about themselves, and that helps me remember them. And the amazing thing about that, then from that story or their background, I can give them a nickname. This nickname that I assigned to you will be a moniker that holds on to you for a while. When I was in college, I played football with a lot of incoming freshmen. And we had a theme or a tradition there where you give the freshmen nicknames. And that's where my nickname JY comes from, because I liked wrestling and they thought because I was black, I looked like the Junkyard Dog. I think it's better than Coco Beware, so I took Junkyard Dog. Compared to some of the other nicknames that the other football players got, JY/JYD was a lot better. But anyway, I kind of adapted that to my life, and I would give people nicknames. Some of the nicknames I have given out to football freshmen were Gumbo, because this freshman came in, country guy, even more countryer, more crunchy-esque than I am, and had quite a southern drawl. We gave him the nickname of Boomhauer from King of the Hill, but that was too long. But then I started to say he talks like in cursive and / gumbo, like a jambalaya of words. So his name was Gumbo. Do I know his real name? Not to this day. Do other people know his real name? Maybe his mother, but everybody else calls him Gumbo, and it sticks. And I can tell you several stories about Gumbo, and you may hear them later. Considering I don't have contact with him anymore, I don't have any approval to release those stories, but they coming. They're gonna get fired out. But anyway, good nicknames is how I remember people's names, and faces I can really hold on to. And I've nicknamed my friend Gumbo. I've nicknamed people. My cousin is dating a guy named Drew. And it took a while for me to catch on to his name being Drew, but I knew he was from Haiti, so I called him Haitian Jack, or the Haitian Sensation. I've nicknamed one of my friends that was Steven. I couldn't remember his name because Steven was too common of a name, but he was half black and half Thai, so we called him Black Tie, or formal, like a black tie affair, half black, half Thai. Yeah, funny. You see what I did there? So those are the names I would use. Now, if you don't believe that this is an ability, let me tell you, I went to a comedy show just this past summer, back when we could go outside and be amongst people like we in America or something. And I went to a comedy show in Raleigh, the Raleigh Improv, and I saw Angela Johnson. Angela Johnson was from Mad TV. She did the Bon Qui Qui and the Nail Lady, Jail, or the Bon Qui Qui is like, I ain't got time for that. I think that was the same. I don't know. But anyway, Angela Johnson, great, funny show. And I saw this waiter, and I remembered him. I remembered him from last year. I see him at the show in 2019. I remember him from 2002. Haven't seen him since 2002. He was a waiter at a restaurant called Cinelli's, which was this Italian restaurant that I just loved. When I worked one summer, I was driving actually it wasn't 2002. Had to be it was 2002 because I graduated in 2003. So yeah, summer 2002, I was driving for House of Lights in Raleigh, which is a store that's no longer there, delivering lights to different houses before like new construction and maybe like larger mansions that were redoing all their lights. And when I delivered the lights, they said they didn't want us to come back and take our own cars for lunch. So I had to eat lunch out. Some of the places that I had to eat at were nicer places because I started making a little money, and I would go to the Italian place. I wouldn't go to a McDonald's or anything. I would go to a sit-down place. It was off hours. The lunch wasn't really packed. It was in a nice neighborhood, which is where I'm delivering lights, and I would go to Cinelli's, and I got to know these waiters and know everything about them, and I didn't know this guy's name, but I remembered his face, and when I told him the story, it's like, hey! I was like, if it ain't James Earl Jonesy Jones. And that's the nickname I gave him, James Earl Jonesy Jones, because he was the only brother in there. And James Earl Jones is a respectable black man that you can give his name to. that he kind of looked like, even though he was a young guy. He was a James Earl Jones looking type of brother. And he remembered me. And everybody else remembered me at that restaurant. But he was surprised that I knew him from, 2002 to 17 years later. I remember this guy, and he said, wow. He barely remembered that he worked there. He was telling me cities that he had lived in before and all this stuff. And I was like, no, bro. And it worked out good. This natural ability, this gift got us out of there on time, because the way they was delivering the food, people were getting their food right when the show was over. And this skill worked good at Chinelli's because I could tell stories and listen to stories. I went to this restaurant so much back in 2002 to 2003 that they had one in Raleigh and they had one in Durham. I would go to the one in Durham and eat pizza at night, and go to the one in Raleigh and eat pizza and scallops and the calamari fresh, because his family moved down from Italy. I got to know Giano, Gaetano, the brothers that run the place. I got the whole backstory on them. Remember their name. They were feeding me. If you feed me, I know your name. Trust me, I will call you by your name. Might know your mama name and everybody's name. I remember when they told me that their father had passed and was getting buried on 9/11, and the buildings were coming down on the funeral procession of them taking their father to the grave. So God bless, rest in peace to Mr. Chinelli, the father of them. But they have several restaurants in New York. I definitely support them. They're the ones that introduced me to Beer Moretti. And I went to these restaurants so much that the Durham store thought I worked for them. So each restaurant thought I worked at the other restaurant. And because I had a delivery truck, even though it said House of Lights, I would pull up in these work vans and eat this fancy lunch every day. This fresh scallops and chicken francaise. I mean, I was going there every day that I was near one. They thought that I was delivering food for the other ones. Like, why else would this rough looking brother, young guy, come to this fine dining establishment? And they called me. I guess I gave my phone number to one of the waiters and say, hey, can you deliver some olives to this? It's like, yeah, no problem. And I delivered them. And when I dropped them off, it's like, you don't work for us. It's like, no, I don't, but here's your olives. And just fell right on in. That's what happens when you can remember people's faces and not their names. Sometimes I've learned that some things that are maybe seen as a disability can really be a benefit. You think Superman was excited the first time his eyes lit up like that and burn up stuff? He probably burned up some pencils, burn up a school desk, but later he's using that to weld down some train tracks. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm laying down some train tracks of communication. I can build closeness with somebody by just knowing their face and knowing the story. And even after they don't remember my name, and I sure don't know their name, I can bring it up. I remember running into somebody that I worked with in 2004, back in 2017, and knew everything about his children and little stories that he told, because my brain has the ability to remember a face and lock in a story, and I can use that to my advantage. Ha ha ha. I'm kind of telling you that I am like the Thanos of tales, if you would, or like the Flash of fables. Yeah, that's what I am. I'm like the Flash of fables. I'm the Professor X of, I don't know, Professor X of anthologies. And I will continue to bring these stories to you. This is Gifted. This is the last story. Nameless Faces. Thank you, guys. All right, guys, you have reached the end of this episode of Gifted. I always like to end the episodes with my random thought. The random thought today is brought to you from driving Uber. What I learned while driving Uber is that if you keep your car clean and you're not a psycho and you smile at people and drive them where they need to go safely, and sometimes not even safely, if you're just nice about it and follow their instructions, if they know a quicker route, you get 5 stars and you're amazing. You're head and shoulders above other Uber drivers and maybe even Lyft drivers. I know as an Uber driver, they complimented me on how well I drove, how clean the car was. I mean, it was kind of a newer car when I was driving, maybe 2-3 years old, top of the line Sienna and a top of the line Camry. But I got compliments on just doing that and not being crazy or not harassing or sexually abusing my passengers, which there are plenty of stories out there about that. But what I learned is that some of these Uber drivers, I refer to them mostly as the refuse to hire or unhirables. Maybe they refuse to get hired from a day job based on, let me see, they know better than the boss does, or they kind of live with this lotto scratcher mentality. For example, like I told you in the story about drunk riding, I would go out and get these rides at night and make as much money in 2 to 3 nights as some Uber drivers did in a week. And it's because they would sit at our airport, which in this area is not very busy, and just wait for rides. Like in this area, that doesn't make sense. That's like a lotto scratcher. You sit there for 3 hours and get a $6 ride. In 3 hours, I would probably make almost $100 at a night. And, you know, maybe that works for them because you can only drive for 12 hours. And if you're sitting still, that 12-hour limit doesn't count against you. But when I drive, I need to be moving. And I think when they drive, they need to be moving. But sometimes other drivers, these unhirables, have this thing of the system's against me. Oh, the way the logarithm is set up. See, the algorithm and the logarithm has it against me where I don't get these big rides anymore. No, it's really by chance. Like if you have higher star rating and you have a clean car a certain age or you meet the qualifications, you get the rides. But otherwise, you don't get the rides. Because I got the rides just by doing what I was supposed to do, which is what can happen if you work a day job. But these people sometimes don't want to do what you're supposed to do. But anyway, that's my random thought. Think about that next time you get in a Uber ride that maybe is a little dirty. These people sometimes are like, just refuse to work or maybe got laid off or something like that. And I appreciate the hustle, but you got to bring some professionalism to it. Stay safe, guys, when you're Uber driving. And I appreciate all the followers and comments. Got quite a few listeners. I'm all over the world now. Ireland, Ecuador, Curacao, whatever, Blue Curaçao. That's the liquor. That's one of my listeners is in Curaçao. Shout out to you. Send me some Blue Curaçao. Love. Ireland, Italy, Sweden, Ecuador. Martina Odale. And to all my listeners here in the States, thank you for listening. If you have any feedback, please send it to me privately, especially if it's bad. I'm big. I'm a big boy. I can take it, so I can adjust this podcast so I can get more listeners. And tell your friends. This is not an indie thing. You're not going to be a hipster if you keep this podcast to yourself. Please steal stories and jokes from me, and you can use them like they're yours. That's cool with me too. But please tell other people. I would like some followers so I can get some more advertisements. I don't just want some people off the IG, like Jones Wild Ass One. But I want some real ads that I can really push people towards. And I need that with followers. So like, subscribe. Thank you guys. Follow me at Manly Mythical Story on IG. Manly Mythical Story on IG. Or send me an email at manlystory@gmail.com if you want to be a sponsor on the podcast. Or if you got any ideas for a theme or a story. If you know me personally, you want me to tell a particular story, I can do that. And also share, tell stories, send me some info. I like feedback. I respond pretty quickly. Thank you guys. And this coming week is my birthday. I might drop a couple special episodes within the week. We'll see. You might get one extra one because I'm gonna be gone out of the city for a week, but I plan on dropping podcasts even on break because no days off when you just get started. Enjoy your week, guys. It's my birthday week. Turn up. We're out.